All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am V. Ravi Kumar and with me is VC Pramod. The headlines. Two-day meeting of BJP National Executive to begin today in Hyderabad. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and Chief Minister of all BJP-ruled states to attend the meet. Shiromani Akali Dal announces support to NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu. Indian Army and Navy begin recruitment processes under Agnipath scheme. DRDO carries out maiden flight of unmanned combat aircraft. India's GST collections jumped 56% to 1.45 lakh crore rupees in June this year, compared to corresponding period last year. Railways records best ever monthly freight loading of over 125 million tons in June this year. Indian origin T. Rajakumar takes over as President of Financial Action Task Force, the world's anti-terrorism financing agency. And in women's cricket, India beat Sri Lanka by 4 wickets in first ODI of the 3-match series at Pallekele International Stadium. The BJP National Executive Committee meeting will begin today in Hyderabad. BJP National General Secretary Tarun Chugh said that the National Executive Committee meeting is being held in Hyderabad after 18 years. Ahead of the meeting, BJP President JP Nadda held a meeting of General Secretaries yesterday evening. The party's National Office Bearers meeting will be held this morning. The Executive Committee meeting is likely to witness participation of about 340 delegates, including Union Ministers Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh and Nitin Gadkari among others. Chief Ministers of BJP-ruled states will also attend the meet. More from our correspondent.
All eyes turned to Hyderabad with the BJP holding its key decision-making body, National Executive Committee meeting in Telangana state capital for next 2 days. All arrangements are in place and top leaders of the BJP have already started reaching Bhagyanagar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be arriving at Hyderabad at around 3 p.m. and will attend all meetings along with the Executive Committee members. The Executive Committee will begin its meeting at 4 p.m. this evening and continue till late in the evening. The NEC meeting will continue tomorrow too. Party will discuss its future strategies and a gamut of issues which have significance at national and international level. The meeting will be passing several resolutions, including the political one. The National Executive Committee meeting will be followed by a massive public meeting called BJP Vijay Sankalpa Sabha, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address. Lakshmi, AR News, Hyderabad.
Shiromani Akali Dal SAD has announced its support to NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu. SAD President Sukhbir Singh Badal announced this after a meeting of the office bearers of the party at Chandigarh. Mr. Badal said that despite differences with BJP on some issues, they have decided to support the NDA presidential candidate as the SAD always worked for the poor and weaker sections of the society. He said that they cannot go with the Congress-backed candidate.
मतभेद ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਈਡ ਤੇ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਈਡ ਤੇ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਹੀ ਰਾਹ ਚੁਣੀਏ ਸੋ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਤੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਫਿਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਦ੍ਰੋਪਦੀ ਮੁਰਮੂ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਐਜ਼ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ.
Earlier, Ms. Murmu met Shiromani Akali Dal leaders in Chandigarh and sought their support in the presidential elections. Ms. Murmu also met Haryana BJP, JJP, MLAs and MPs and Punjab BJP leaders. She was also welcomed by Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar, Deputy Chief Minister Dushyant Chautala, Haryana BJP Chief Om Prakash Dhankar and Punjab BJP President Ashwini Sharma at Haryana Bhavan in Chandigarh.
Defence Ministry has announced that Indian Army and Navy have started registration for recruitment of Agniveers under Agnipath scheme. Under the scheme, Agniveers will be recruited in the Army, Navy and the Air Force for 4 years. After 4 years, up to 25% of them could be retained or re-enlisted in the regular cadre based on merit, willingness and medical fitness. The remaining 75% will be eligible for Seva Nidhi packages of 11 to 12 lakh rupees. They will also be provided with skills certificates and bank loans for their second career. The recruitment is scheduled to begin in 90 days and beneficiaries will also be entitled to awards, medals and insurance. During the first 4 years, soldiers will be given a monthly salary of around 30 to 40,000 rupees. The Defence Research and Development Organization DRDO yesterday successfully carried out the maiden flight of autonomous flying wing technology demonstrator from the aeronautical test range at Chitradurg in Karnataka. With this success, India's secretive Unmanned Combat Aerial Vehicle UCAV program, under which a technology demonstrator called Stealth Wing Flying Test Bed Swift is being developed, reached a milestone. The program is linked to the development of India's fifth-generation stealth fighter Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, or AMCA. The flight operated in a fully autonomous mode. The aircraft exhibited a perfect flight, including takeoff, waypoint navigation, and a smooth touchdown. This aircraft is powered by a small turbofan engine. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has congratulated DRDO. He said it is a major achievement towards autonomous aircraft and will pave the way for Atmanirbhar Bharat in terms of critical military systems.
India's goods and services tax GST collections in June this year surged 56% year-on-year to around 1.45 lakh crore rupees. The GST collections in June last year stood at 92,800 crore rupees. Economic recovery and anti-evasion activities, especially action taken against fake billers, have contributed to the enhanced GST collections. As per the Ministry of Finance, this is the fifth time the monthly GST collection crossed 1.4 lakh crore rupees mark since the inception of GST, and the fourth month at a stretch since March 2022. The average monthly gross GST collection for the first quarter of the current fiscal has been 1.51 lakh crore rupees against the average monthly collection of 1.1 lakh crore rupees as in the first quarter of the last financial year, showing an increase of 37%. Railways has recorded the best ever monthly freight loading of over 125 million tons in June this year. The incremental loading has been a growth of 11.28% over the same period in 2021. The Railway Ministry said this growth has been fueled by incremental loading of over 13 million tons in coal, followed by cement and food grains. The cumulative freight loading in the first quarter of this financial year has been over 379 million tons as against 339 million tons achieved in 2021-22.
Union Home Minister Amit Shah has said that the government is planning to provide electricity and gas connection to every household. He was speaking after launching various development works in his Gandhinagar Lok Sabha constituency yesterday. He said that the government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has also planned to provide a home to every poor in the country by 2024. He said that Gujarat has been developing for the last 20 years and will continue to develop more during the next 30 years. Mr. Shah has launched Smoke-Free Village campaign from Modasar village of Sanand Taluka in Ahmedabad district by distributing cooking gas kits to the villagers. He also launched the Thalassemia-Free Gujarat campaign on this occasion. He also laid the foundation stone of a beautification and renovation project of 500 years old ancient Banganga Lake in Modasar village. He appealed to the people to build or renovate 75 lakes or ponds in each district under the celebrations of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Union Women and Child Development Minister Smriti Irani will chair the zonal meeting of Ministry of Women and Child Development in Ranchi today. During the meeting, Ms. Irani will review the implementation of three new schemes: Mission Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0, Mission Shakti and Mission Vatsalya. Three best-performing aspirational districts will share their experiences on initiatives undertaken to positively impact children and beneficiaries of various schemes during the meeting. An open dialogue will be also organized on this occasion.
Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde has expressed satisfaction over the pre-monsoon preparations done by the railways and civic authorities. Mr. Shinde, along with Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, held a review meeting yesterday regarding the monsoon situation across the state with civic officials, concerned departments and personnel from the NDRF, Army, Navy, Air Force and Police. While officials from Railways and Meteorological Department were also present, divisional commissioners and district collectors attended this meeting via video conferencing. Speaking to media after the meeting, Mr. Shinde said instructions have been issued to start war rooms manned by civic authorities to attend rain-related complaints. In order to ensure that there is no loss of life or property, the Chief Minister has asked various agencies to maintain coordination amongst themselves by ensuring that there is proper communication. The monsoon session of Odisha Legislative Assembly will begin today. The session will be conducted with all the COVID-19 protocols. Finance Minister Niranjan Pujari is slated to present the state budget for the remaining 8 months of the year 2022-23 on the very first day of the session today. The session will have 24 working days.
India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed 197 crore 83 lakh mark. More than 8 lakh vaccine doses were administered yesterday. Union Health Ministry said that more than 6 crore vaccine doses have been administered to children in the age group of 12 to 14 years so far. Over 4 crore 63 lakh precaution doses have been administered to the identified categories of beneficiaries, including healthcare workers, frontline workers and people above 18 years of age. You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Two-day meeting of BJP National Executive to begin today in Hyderabad. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and Chief Ministers of all BJP-ruled states to attend the meet. Shiromani Akali Dal announces support to NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu. Indian Army and Navy begin recruitment processes under Agnipath scheme. DRDO carries out maiden flight of unmanned combat aircraft. India's GST collections jump 56% to 1.45 lakh crore rupees in June this year compared to corresponding period last year. Railways records best ever monthly freight loading of over 125 million tons in June this year. Indian origin T. Rajakumar takes over as President of the Financial Action Task Force, the world's anti-terrorism financing agency. And in women's cricket, India beat Sri Lanka by 4 wickets in first ODI of the 3-match series at Pallikale International Stadium. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
कंपटीशन की अगर आप कर रहे हैं तैयारी तो उनके लिए ऑल इंडिया रेडियो पर हम लाए हैं अभ्यास, एक ऐसा कार्यक्रम जिसमें आप पूछेंगे सवाल व्हाट्सएप नंबर 9289094044 पर या फिर ईमेल करेंगे abhyas.airnews@gmail.com पर और हमारे विशेषज्ञ देंगे इसका जवाब। आपका अभ्यास हमारा प्रयास।
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर
8700014242।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. They exchanged ideas on how bilateral trade in agricultural goods, fertilizers and pharma products could be encouraged further. The leaders discussed global issues including the state of the international energy and food markets. The two leaders also reviewed the implementation of the decisions taken during President Putin's visit to India in December last year. In the context of the ongoing situation in Ukraine, the Prime Minister reiterated India's long-standing position in favor of dialogue and diplomacy. The leaders agreed to maintain regular consultations on global and bilateral issues. Talking to AIR News, former diplomat Ashok Sajjanhar opined that Prime Minister Modi has underlined and emphasized the role of diplomacy and dialogue in dealing with conflict.
In his conversation, he again underlined and emphasized the role of diplomacy and dialogue in dealing with this conflict. Over the last 4 months since the conflict started, India has pursued balanced policy without joining either of the two sides. We have very firmly safeguarded our strategic autonomy. So this conversation between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin was once again an indication that India is pursuing independent policy, a free policy, and basically to promote peace, security, stability in the region and in the world.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Yair Lapid for assuming the premiership of Israel. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said he is looking forward to continue furthering the strategic partnership between India and Israel as both the nations celebrate 30 years of full diplomatic relations. The Prime Minister also thanked outgoing Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, for being a true friend of India. Mr. Modi said that he cherished all his fruitful interactions with Bennett and wished him success in his new role.
Indian origin T. Rajakumar has taken over as President of the Financial Action Task Force FATF, the world's anti-terrorism financing agency. FATF tweeted that Rajakumar will focus on enhancing the effectiveness of global anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing measures, improving asset recovery and other initiatives. He has more than 35 years of leadership and operational experience in Singapore's Home Ministry and Police Force. Rajakumar succeeds Dr. Marcus Player as the chief of the FATF and will serve a 2-year term. FATF is a global watchdog tasked with combating money laundering and terrorist financing. At least 3 people were killed and 8 injured in a 6.1 magnitude earthquake in southern Iran early this morning. Iranian media put the strength of the quake at 6.1, while the European Mediterranean Seismological Center said it was 6.0 magnitude. Major geological fault lines crisscross Iran, which has suffered several devastating earthquakes in recent years. Residents from various parts of the UAE felt tremors as well. India's largest floating solar power project is now fully operational. NTPC declared commercial operation of the final part capacity of the 20 megawatt out of the 100 megawatt Ramagundam floating solar PV project at Ramagundam, Telangana, with effect from the 1st of July. With the operationalization of a 100 megawatt solar PV project at Ramagundam, the total commercial operation of the floating solar capacity in the southern region rose to 217 megawatt.
The prominent global player in the semiconductor industry, IGSS Ventures, has signed an agreement with the Tamil Nadu government for establishing a semiconductor park. It was signed in the presence of Chief Minister M.K. Stalin in Chennai yesterday. The industrial park will be established in a 300-acre land with an investment commitment of 25,600 crore rupees in 5 years. And now, let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of this struggle every day.
In today's episode, we remember freedom fighter Yusuf Mihar Ali, who died on the 2nd of July 1950. Yusuf Mihar Ali is credited with giving the slogans "Simon, go back" and "Quit India."
Simon, go back! Simon, go back!
Yusuf Mihar Ali was born on the 23rd of September 1903. He founded the National Militia, Bombay Youth League and the Congress Socialist Party and played a role in several peasant and trade union movements. He also took part in the protests against the Simon Commission. He took part in the Quit India movement and was imprisoned. He was elected mayor of Bombay in 1942 while he was imprisoned in Hyderabad Central Prison.
A notable writer, Yusuf Ali is credited with writing Leaders of India, The Price of Liberty and Underground Movement. The nationalist leader continued to work for the people until his death in 1950. AIR News salutes the great Indian.
We also remember freedom fighter Bakht Khan, who was appointed General of the Hindustan Army of Bahadur Shah Zafar on the 2nd of July 1857. A resident of Bareilly, Uttar Pradesh, Khan was initially working as a subedar in the artillery of the British Indian Army.
He left the British service during the First War of Indian Independence in 1857 and joined the independence activists at Bareilly. He became a brigadier of the activists in Bareilly and made arrangements for arms and ammunition. In June 1857, he marched towards Delhi along with his followers.
Bakht Khan reached Delhi on the 2nd of July 1857 and was welcomed by Bahadur Shah Zafar, who called him Farzand and appointed him as the commander-in-chief with the title General. Bakht Khan reorganized the army in Delhi, gave them 6 months advance salary and ordered them to maintain strict discipline. He also played a key role in forming the administrative council called Jalsa-e-Fauji wa Mulki to maintain law and order in Delhi.
Although he succeeded in ousting the British forces from various strongholds in Delhi, he lost in the Battle of Najafgarh on 25th of August 1857. Bakht Khan left Delhi after its fall to the British in September 1857, but continued to fight the British in Lucknow and Rohilkhand. After the uprising was suppressed, Bakht Khan escaped towards Nepal and was reported to have been killed there in action in 1859. AIR News salutes the great freedom fighter.
We also remember Martyr Sawan, who took part in the First War of Independence in 1857 in Gujarat. Sawan highlighted the cruelties of the British and inspired his neighbours to raise their arms to overthrow the foreign rule. He was captured by the British and charged with sedition and rebellion against the company rule. Sawan was sentenced to imprisonment for life with labour in irons. He died in captivity on the 2nd of July, 1859 in the Andaman Islands. We salute the brave son of the soil.
We also remember martyrs Dodhai, Bhagwan and Sahdev, residents of district Gorakhpur, Uttar Pradesh, who were sentenced to death on the 2nd of July 1923. During the non-cooperation movement, the British police of Chauri Chaura Thana opened fire on the peaceful protesters in the area, causing deaths and injuries to many. When the police ran out of ammunition and found the gathering infuriated by the firing, they retreated and hid themselves inside the police station. A few infuriated activists sprayed kerosene oil on the building and set it on fire, killing all the 23 policemen inside.
Dodhai, Bhagwan and Sahdev were among the accused and were convicted for taking part in the Chauri Chaura case. They were sentenced to death and hanged on the 2nd of July 1923. All India Radio News salutes the brave sons of the soil.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
As a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, All India Radio News brings its listeners a special quiz on India's freedom movement and its glorious history. The next question of Amrit Mahotsav quiz will be shared with the listeners on Monday, 4th of July. Celebrate 75 years of India's independence by participating in Amrit Mahotsav quiz with AIR News. Union Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal yesterday virtually launched the 3-day Grand Hackathon organized by the Open Network for Digital Commerce ONDC in collaboration with NABARD. This is a hybrid event with a physical event held at the Bombay Stock Exchange in Fort Mumbai. The event will showcase the innovations to aid the adoption of e-commerce in the agricultural sector. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Goyal said the event will serve as a springboard for startups to partner with the ONDC and innovate solutions for some of the most pressing challenges in the agri sector. Stating that the farmers' welfare and doubling their income has been a top priority for the NDA government, Mr. Goyal added that enabling farmers to get connected with markets using innovation and technology will lead to faster economic growth. Minister of State for Fisheries, Animal Husbandry, Dr. L. Murugan, visited the National Fisheries Development Board, NFDB, in Hyderabad yesterday. He reviewed various activities of the national organization with senior officials. The NFDB is implementing various activities like intensive aquaculture in ponds and tanks, reservoir fisheries development, coastal aquaculture to enhance the fish production and facilitate its marketing. Dr. L. Murugan also visited the Aquatic Animal Health Quality Testing Laboratory established at the NFDB premises and reviewed its facilities. The technical experts told him about the various tests carried out for the benefits of the farming community.
The central government has approved a proposal of the Journalist Welfare Scheme Committee to provide financial relief to the families of 35 journalists who have lost their lives. This includes 16 families of journalists who died of COVID-19. The families will be provided with assistance up to 5 lakh rupees. The Journalist Welfare Scheme JWS Committee, headed by Secretary Information and Broadcasting Ministry Apurva Chandra, also recommended assistance to 2 journalists suffering from permanent disability and to 5 journalists for their medical treatment of major ailments as per the JWS guidelines. The committee has approved a total assistance of 1,81 lakh rupees during the meeting. Novak Djokovic beat fellow Serb Miomir Kecmanovic last night as he continued his relentless pursuit of a 4th successive Wimbledon title with a 6-0, 6-3, 6-4 victory. Djokovic was streets ahead of his 22-year-old rival as he reached the last 16 at Wimbledon for the 14th time. In the mixed doubles match, Sania Mirza progressed to the next round in the mixed doubles at Wimbledon as she, along with her Croatian partner Mate Pavic, defeated Natela Zamiri and David Vega Hernandez 6-4, 3-6, 7-10, 6-3 in round 3. In cricket, India made 338 runs for 7 wickets against England at the end of day 1 in the rescheduled 5th Test match at Edgbaston, Birmingham. Ravindra Jadeja, who scored 83, and Mohammad Shami were playing when stumps were drawn for the day. Rishabh Pant was top scorer, who made 146 runs by playing 111 balls. He hit 24s and 4 sixes. India lead the Test series against England 2-1. The England versus India one-off test is the 5th test from last year's tour, which was postponed due to COVID-19. India lead the series 2-1.
In women's cricket, India defeated Sri Lanka by 4 wickets in the first ODI of the 3-match series at Pallekele International Stadium yesterday. Chasing a victory target of 172 runs, India achieved the target in 38 overs. The visitors scored 176 for 6 wickets. Skipper Harmanpreet Kaur remained the top scorer with 44 runs. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. The minimum temperature was 24 and the maximum will be 34 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. The minimum and maximum temperature will hover between 25 and 30 degrees Celsius. Chennai will have thunderstorm with rain. The minimum temperature was 26 and the maximum will be 36 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The minimum and maximum temperature will hover between 26 and 33 degrees Celsius. Srinagar will have a mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards evening or night. Jammu will have thunderstorm with rain. Leh and Gilgit will have a mainly clear sky. Muzaffarabad will have a mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards evening or night. Visakhapatnam, Bengaluru and Tirunanthapuram will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. In Hyderabad, rain or thunder showers would occur towards evening or night. Guwahati and Imphal will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. The Indian Express reports that the Udaipur killing was instigated by a man from Pakistan who told the accused to do something spectacular. Modi, Putin speak over phone, discuss Ukraine bilateral trade, writes the Pioneer. Shinde to face floor test on Monday. New speaker election tomorrow, reports the Asian Age. Uddhav taunts BJP for ignoring 50-50 offer, losing CM chair, reports the Pioneer. Financial Express reports basic import duty on gold hiked to 15%. The Economic Times headlines reads, Government slaps export duties on petrol, diesel and ATF. The paper further quotes the Finance Minister as saying, extraordinary times require such steps. Captain Amrinder all set to join the BJP, reports the Pioneer. Explosives taken to Patna court as case property goes off, reports Hindustan Times. Cluster of global brands bursts onto Indian scene, writes the Economic Times, adding that large retail and food labels are entering and expanding after 2-year COVID gap. And finally, Statesman writes that lakhs of enthusiastic devotees are thronging Puri for the Yatratha after 2 years of COVID ban, where the number of devotees was restricted to 500.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Two-day meeting of BJP National Executive to begin today in Hyderabad. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and Chief Ministers of all BJP-ruled states to attend the meet. Shiromani Akali Dal announces support to NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu. Indian Army and Navy begin recruitment processes under Agnipath scheme. DRDO carries out maiden flight of unmanned combat aircraft. India's GST collections jumped 56% to 1.45 lakh crore rupees in June this year compared to corresponding period last year. Railway records best ever monthly freight loading of over 125 million tons in June this year. Indian origin T. Rajakumar takes over as President of Financial Action Task Force, the world's anti-terrorism financing agency. And in women's cricket, India beat Sri Lanka by 4 wickets in first ODI of the 3-match series at Pallekele International Stadium. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.